He said he didn't want to hide us anymore. But when the world found out, he proved it wasn't just words. It started with a look. Not a word, not a touch, just one quiet glance across the boardroom table. And suddenly, the numbers on the screen didn't matter anymore. All I could think about was him, Mr. Gabriel Cruz, my boss. He was everything a man shouldn't be allowed to be. Calm, yet commanding, voice like slow bourbon, and eyes that could strip away your composure without saying a thing. He was 42, divorced, no kids, no distractions, just discipline and focus. Lately, though, that focus had been directed at me. My name's Evan Carter. I'm 30. I've been his assistant for a year. At first, I told myself the job was temporary, just a stepping stone. But somewhere along the way, it became something else. I started looking forward to mornings, to hearing his voice behind me, to that quiet moment when his hand brushed the back of my chair. Never too close, never far enough. The problem was, I didn't know what this was. How do you even ask your boss if he feels the same thing you do? That strange pulse between silence and meaning. So I stayed quiet, pretended not to notice the extra seconds his eyes lingered on mine, pretended those small, charged pauses didn't make the air feel heavier. And then came that night. Late. The office empty. Just him and me. I was finishing a report when he walked over, sleeves rolled up, tie undone, a quiet calm in his voice. You work too hard, Evan. I laughed softly. Someone's got to keep things moving. But he didn't laugh. He just stood there, studying me in a way that made time slow down. For a moment, the world felt smaller. Just the hum of the lights, the sound of his breath, and the space between us that neither of us dared to cross. I don't know what would have happened if someone had walked in just then. Maybe nothing, maybe everything. But I remember that moment clearly, not because of what he did, but because of what I felt. Seen, noticed, human again. And that night, something shifted quietly inside me. It wasn't about power or boundaries anymore. It was about connection, fragile, forbidden, but painfully real. Seen. For the first time, I felt seen. And Mr. Cruz, he wasn't looking at my resume anymore. He was looking at me. His hand stayed there, steady and unhurried, resting at the small of my back. I didn't breathe. I didn't speak. Because if I did, the moment might disappear. Evan, he whispered, his voice close enough to feel. Tell me to stop. My lips parted, but nothing came out. What could I say? That I'd thought about this moment more times than I'd ever admit? That late at night, I'd wonder what it would be like to stand this close, to feel something that wasn't duty or deadlines, just human warmth? So no, I didn't stop him. I turned to face him, and for a second, the city lights behind us looked like 1,000 quiet witnesses. His tie hung loose, his breathing slow, his eyes asking a question he already knew the answer to. Are you sure? He asked. I didn't answer with words. I just looked back at him, and somehow that was enough. He stepped forward and pulled me into his arms, not forceful, just certain like he'd been holding that moment inside for too long. When he kissed me, it wasn't hurried or careless. It felt like everything we'd both been afraid to say finally found its voice. It was the kind of kiss that doesn't ask for more, it just asks to be real. The world outside kept moving, but inside that room, time slowed down. All the noise, the rules, the reasons why this shouldn't happen, they faded for a breath. Because beneath all the hesitation and wrong timing, there was something neither of us could deny: connection. When he finally pulled back, he looked at me, quiet, conflicted. I've wanted this for too long, he said softly. But maybe wanting something isn't always enough. And in that silence, I understood. This wasn't about breaking lines or crossing them. It was about two people, both a little lonely, both trying to remember what it felt like to be wanted and seen. I swallowed hard, heart pounding. I didn't think I'd ever want to, I whispered back. He smiled, soft, almost uncertain. And for a moment, everything else faded away. It wasn't about crossing lines or chasing desire. It was about being seen, being wanted, being touched in a way that reminded me I was more than a voice on the phone or a name in an inbox. With every quiet breath, I felt like the world had shrunk down to just that moment. Fragile, real, impossible to explain. That night didn't feel like fantasy. It felt like release. Two people who'd spent too long pretending they didn't feel something finally letting go. There were no words, no labels, no plans. Just silence, breath, and a strange sense of belonging that scared me more than anything else. But even in the stillness of it all, I couldn't silence the voice in my head. What happens when the sun comes up? Would he still look at me the same way? Would I still look at myself the same way? Because no matter how honest it felt, I knew we'd stepped over a line, one we could never completely erase. When I opened my eyes, dawn had barely touched the windows. The office was quiet again, the same steady hum from the night before. Only now it felt colder. Emptier. Gabriel wasn't there. I sat up slowly on the couch, buttoning my shirt, trying to steady my breathing. The room still smelled faintly of whiskey and cologne, a reminder that what happened wasn't just a dream. My mind spun. What had I done? I wasn't just someone passing through his life. I was his assistant, his responsibility. And last night, I let go of every rule, every reason, every boundary I thought I'd never cross. Worse, I didn't regret it. Not yet. That's what scared me the most. Was it a mistake? Or was it something real? Before I could even begin to answer that, the elevator chimed. I turned, and there he was, Gabriel Cruz. Perfect suit, calm expression, not a trace of last night in his eyes. He looked at me like it was just another Monday morning. And for the first time, I realized, maybe for him it was, for a second, neither of us said a word. He just looked at me, and I looked at him, but something flickered in his eyes. Guilt, maybe, or fear. Morning, he said finally, voice quiet. Morning, I answered, forcing a calm I didn't feel. Neither of us mentioned the night before. Neither of us dared to say, I liked it or what now, because we both knew nothing would ever be the same. The day crawled by like a bad dream. Emails, meetings, small talk. Everything felt mechanical. We were professionals again, pretending nothing had changed, while both of us remembered too much. Every glance across the room carried the weight of what we weren't saying. And then, around 4 p.m., a message popped up on my screen. Come to my office. Now, my stomach dropped. I stood, trying to breathe, and walked that long hallway like it might never end. When I stepped inside, he didn't speak at first. He just closed the door quietly and leaned against it like he was holding something in. Evan, he said finally, voice low and unsteady. About last night, I can't stop thinking about it. I froze. He continued, I know it was reckless. I know it crossed the line. But if you regret it, if you hate me for it, I need to hear you say it. My heart was pounding so hard it almost hurt. I don't hate you, I whispered. I can't. His expression softened and darkened all at once. Then why do you look at me like I'm a stranger? Because I don't know what this is, I said before I could stop myself. Was it just one night? Or are we both pretending this doesn't mean more than it should? The silence that followed was heavy. Electric. Then he moved closer, slow, deliberate. When he kissed me, it wasn't like before. It was slower, thoughtful, as if he was afraid to break something fragile between us. And somehow, that made it feel even more dangerous, because it wasn't just about one anymore. It was about feeling. When he finally pulled back, his hand stayed on my face, his thumb tracing the edge of my jaw. He looked at me like he was searching for something he'd lost years ago. I haven't wanted someone like this in a long time, he said quietly. His voice trembled just a little, not with weakness but honesty. Evan, it's not just you I want around. It's who you are, your mind, your calm, the way you look at the world. I want all of it. I should have reminded him of the rules, the risk, the whispers, the cost. But I didn't. Instead, I met his eyes, feeling that same impossible pull between right and real. So what now? I asked softly. He exhaled, the corners of his mouth barely lifting. Now, he said, we figure out what this really is before it consumes us. You come to my place tonight. His tone left no space for doubt. Firm, quiet, certain, like he'd already made his choice. And if I say yes? I asked, barely able to breathe. He stepped closer, voice low enough to send a shiver down my spine. Then I'll make you forget every reason you ever tried to stay away. My chest tightened. That night, I stood outside his condo, high-rise glass, the city lights reflected against the dark sky. Everything about it felt polished, untouchable like him. And still I was there. This wasn't about desire anymore. It was about surrender to something neither of us had planned, but both of us couldn't seem to fight. When the door opened, he stood there, no suit, no armor. Just Gabriel Cruz, calm, barefoot, still dangerous in his quiet control. He didn't say a word, just stepped aside and let me in. The apartment was modern, sleek, everything in order, except the energy between us. When the door clicked shut, the air changed. He turned toward me, eyes steady, voice roughened by restraint. "Take off your shoes," he said softly. I did, not out of fear, but because something inside me trusted him enough to. There was a weight to the silence. Every step, every breath felt intentional. He moved closer, and when his hand brushed mine, the world seemed to stop. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't thoughtless. It was deliberate, like he was trying to learn me, understand me, remember me. We didn't talk much that night. We didn't have to. Every glance, every quiet touch felt like confession. Two people finally admitting what words couldn't carry. But beneath the warmth, there was something else too, fear. Because as much as I wanted to stay in that moment, I knew it couldn't last. Later, when the city lights dimmed and the room fell silent, I lay there beside him, heart still racing, thoughts spinning. He looked at me like he saw something he hadn't seen in a long time. And for a moment, I believed it. I believed him. But as the first light crept through the blinds, the truth returned like a cold reminder. Was this real, or just a beautiful secret meant to fade by morning? Because falling for your boss isn't just complicated, it's dangerous. It's walking a line that can break both your career and your heart. I didn't sleep that night, not because I regretted it, but because I already knew, whatever this was, it wasn't simple anymore. And by morning, when I slipped quietly out of his bed, I realized something I wasn't ready to face. Gabriel Cruz wasn't just part of my work life anymore. He was part of me. Without waking him, I slowly slid out from under his arm. His body was still warm against mine, his breath steady, soft against my neck. For a moment, I almost stayed, but I didn't. I couldn't. I got dressed quietly, heart heavy, and slipped out the door before the morning light could catch me. Back at my apartment, everything felt wrong. My bed was too cold, my space too quiet, my chest too full of something I couldn't name. Because now I had to decide, was I really going to keep letting this happen? Keep letting my boss touch me, ruin me, rebuild me, in ways that terrified me? Or was I strong enough to walk away before it destroyed me completely? Around noon, his message came in. Lunch. My office. You pick the place. I didn't reply. Not because I was angry, but because I didn't trust myself not to give in. I needed distance. But Gabriel Cruz wasn't the kind of man who accepted silence as an answer. By 3 o'clock, he was standing in my workspace. No warning, no emotion. Just him, arms crossed, jaw tight, eyes locked on me. I froze. I needed some space, I said quietly. His voice cut through the room. You didn't seem to need space last night. My stomach twisted. I stood, trying to keep my voice steady. Last night was a mistake. He flinched, barely, but I saw it. That tiny break behind his control. Don't do that, he said softly, stepping closer. Don't pretend what happened meant nothing. I saw the way you looked at me. And I meant it. I admit it. But I can't keep doing this. You're my boss, Gabriel. He moved closer still, his voice lower now. Do you regret it? I swallowed hard. No, but I regret what it means. His jaw tightened. What does it mean, Evan? I looked him in the eye. It means I can't be just another body in your bed. I can't keep giving myself to you without knowing where this is going. Silence filled the room. A full minute, maybe more. Neither of us moved. Then he stepped back, his voice quieter this time. I don't want anyone else, he said. But I can't promise this won't be complicated. I nodded slowly. I know. That's why I'm walking away now, while I still can. And I did. I walked out his office, past his desk, through the hallway, heart shattered, legs trembling. I didn't look back. I couldn't. But every step away from him felt like a lie. Because deep down, I didn't want to leave. I wanted him to stop me, to fight for me, to say something anything that would make me stay. That night, I sat on my couch, staring at the ceiling, trying to breathe. But all I could think about was him, the way his hand moved down my back, the way he whispered my name, the way his voice broke in the dark. I wanted to forget him, but I couldn't, because the truth was, Gabriel didn't just touch my body. He touched something deeper, something I didn't even know could be reached. A week passed, 7 full days, 7 long, aching nights. No texts, no calls, not a single word from Gabriel. At first, I told myself I was fine. I even felt proud that I'd drawn a line, that I'd taken control back. But by the 3rd night, I was staring at my phone like it might light up if I just wished hard enough. By the 5th, I was dreaming of him, waking up breathless, heart racing, sheets tangled around me. And by the 7th, I was falling apart. I told myself he'd moved on, that maybe I'd been just another thing he touched and forgot. But my heart didn't believe it. My heart still hoped. No ached for him to come back. And then he did. It was Friday. I'd stayed late at the office, trying to catch up on reports I couldn't focus on. Everyone else had gone home hours ago. The building was silent. Too silent. Then ding. The elevator. Footsteps followed. Slow. Steady. Familiar. I didn't turn around. "What are you doing here?" I asked, my voice barely holding steady. "I could ask you the same," he said behind me. When I finally turned, I froze. He wasn't in his usual sharp suit, just jeans, a fitted dark shirt, no tie. He looked real, still dangerous, but softer somehow. Our eyes met, and everything I'd been trying to bury came rushing back. "I gave you space," he said, walking closer, his voice low, rough. But it was hell. I swallowed hard. My throat felt tight. "Gabriel, I couldn't sleep," he went on. "Couldn't work." I turned, caught off guard. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I want you," he said softly. "Not just in secret. Not just in bed. I want all of it." My heart stopped. I knew what that meant, and how dangerous it was. But his voice was steady, his eyes clear. "I don't want to hide this anymore, Evan," he repeated. I stared at him under the low light, his hand resting over my heart. For a moment, I believed him. Believed that this man, powerful, guarded, my boss, truly meant it. "Are you saying you want us to go public?" I asked carefully. He nodded. "I want you in my life. Not just my nights." That night, when he held me, it felt different. Not forbidden. Not wrong. Just real. We made love slowly. Not out of hunger, but connection. Like he was learning me, piece by piece. Like I mattered. And for the first time, I let myself believe we could be more than a secret. But reality has a way of finding cracks in even the sweetest dreams. And ours came on a Monday morning. I walked into the office like nothing had changed, pretending to be calm. But eyes followed me. Whispers. Stares. Something was off. Then I saw her, Marissa, the HR director, standing by my desk, arms crossed. "Mr. Cruz would like to see you," she said sharply. "Now." My stomach dropped. Inside Gabriel's office, he stood by the window, back tense, jaw tight. When he finally turned to me, the look in his eyes said everything. "Someone found out," he said quietly. "They reported it anonymously." I froze. "What? Who?" "They know," he said, voice flat. "They know about us." My throat closed up. "What happens now?" He hesitated, and when he finally spoke, his tone was steady but heavy. "There's going to be an investigation. HR, legal, maybe even the board." His words hit me like a cold wave. "You said we didn't have to hide," I whispered, voice shaking. "I didn't expect it to blow up this fast," he said quietly. I felt the tears burn behind my eyes, but I held them back. "Are you going to deny it?" He didn't answer right away. Then finally, in a low voice, if I admit it, I could lose everything. My voice cracked. "So what about me, Gabriel? Do I just pretend this never happened?" He looked at me, but he didn't say a word. And that silence said it all. He wasn't choosing me. He was choosing his reputation, his company, his power. That night, I went home shattered. I curled into bed and finally let it all fall apart. He told me he didn't want to hide anymore. But when it mattered most, he did. And suddenly, every word, every touch, every whisper of love felt like a lie I'd convinced myself to believe. But I wasn't done. Because if Gabriel couldn't stand beside me when it mattered, then maybe it was time I stood for myself. 2 weeks. That's how long I stayed away. No calls, no texts, no late-night messages, just silence. Every day, I walked into the office with my head high, pretending it didn't hurt, pretending I was fine. And sometimes, when I caught him looking at me from across the room, I'd force myself not to look back. Then, one Friday night, I found a letter slipped under my apartment door. No envelope, just a single folded page in handwriting I knew better than my own. I was wrong. I thought protecting you meant staying quiet. But I should have screamed your name from the rooftops. I lost you once. I won't do it again. Gabriel. I didn't respond. Not because I didn't feel something, but because sometimes love needs more than words. It needs proof. The following week, I got it. During a board meeting, with the entire office watching, Gabriel stood up, calm, steady, and said, "Yes, I had a relationship with an employee. Yes, it was consensual. And yes, I still love him." The room fell silent. My heart did, too. Then he said the words that would change everything. "I'm stepping down." He gave up his position, his power, for me. And that's when I knew. This wasn't just passion. This was real. That night, he waited outside my building, in the same spot where it all began. Rain poured down, no umbrella, his suit drenched, his hands trembling. When I walked up to him, he looked at me like he'd been holding his breath for 2 weeks straight. I pulled him in, my hands gripping his soaked shirt. "You idiot," I whispered through the rain. "You didn't have to give up everything." He smiled, tired, raw, but certain. "I didn't," he said softly. "I still have you." And there, under the storm, with the city spinning around us, he kissed me. The kind of kiss that doesn't fade. The kind that ends stories or starts new ones. I never expected to fall for my boss. Never expected him to ruin me, then rebuild me. But he did. And if I had to do it all over again, I would. Because that night, he didn't just touch my back. He touched my heart, too. The end.